Hi, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us here at Children's Theatre of Charlotte for a viewing of our production of The Invisible Boy. For today, we're really happy to partner with a great group called The Sandbox. And I'm going to take a moment now and bring on my friend Mara. Hi, Mara.
Hey, Adam.
And I'm going to take a moment now and bring on my friend Mara. Hi, Mara.
Hey, how are you?
And we are having a Mara. You may want to put earphones in, Mara. I think we're getting a feedback, there we go. So Mara, the Sandbox is your organization, yeah?
There we go. Are we better now?
Yes, can you hear me? You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, great. I can hear you.
There's a delay, so then it repeats, but I can hear you. Can you?
You sound great to me.
Okay, good. Okay.
I'm going to check with my people. Great. So we're happy to be here with you today. And we're happy to be showing our production of The Invisible Boy, which was, kind of a labor of love for us. And it was a part of the Kindness Project for us here at Children's Theatre of Charlotte. And we're really happy to be able to share that with you, our new partners. Do you want to say a few words about what the Sandbox is or a brief welcome?
Absolutely. Well, I first want to thank you for this partnership. We're really excited. So Children's Theatre of Charlotte, and we're really, really excited to have this opportunity. And I also want to welcome any of our Sandboxers that are on today for coming out. Hi, Linda. I just saw a hi from Linda. And so, Adam, thank you for welcoming our families. Thank you for welcoming the Sandboxers. And I hope that this is the beginning of a wonderful long-term relationship. I see so many people signing on, saying hello, Sarah, Karen, Jeanette, Kathy. Welcome to all of our Sandbox friends and some of our new friends. And just a huge, huge thank you for this opportunity.
We are happy to be here. And so as you are all seeing, we can highlight your comments. So if you're viewing on YouTube, which you are, at the bottom or somewhere, there's a commenting feature. After the show, I am going to bring on the writer of the show, as well as some of the actors who you're going to see in the show. And they will be available to answer questions or just have a conversation with those of us that are viewing today. And if they make a comment on YouTube, I will be able to highlight them just like this. Hi, Chris. Hi, Sarah. Kindness is so important. Love it. Me too. All right, great. Well, Mara, thank you for being here. I'm going to take you out, and then I'm going to take us over to the show.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Look up in the sky, it's an awesome guy. He's come to celebrate that all us kids are great. Look how he flies, look how he smiles. He's hung with games and fun, he's here for everyone.
Boys and girls from around the world all hope for just one thing, to play and have fun with a super friend. What a guy! What a chance for everyone to play.
As long we're away, it's gonna be an awesome day.
Hey, Brian! Brian? Can't find you. You there, buddy?
Yeah, Mom.
Time to go. School bus will be here any minute now. Hey, little guy, you all right? Okay, come on. I packed something extra sweet for you today. So if you feel like you need some mommy time, I'm right there, my brave little man.
Thanks.
Now go get him. Bye, Mom.
The world is full of infinite possibilities, and every child who grows in it delights us in his or her own special way. Every day is another day for smiles and laughter. Each day is a learning day, a day for happy ever after. Each child is a special child, every one of them truly matters. Everyone, every day, in their own special way. Take Nathan here, yes, Nathan here. He's a super special boy. Creative and inventive, his mother tells me he's a joy. He makes the most delightful sounds, not one of us is apple of his mother's eye. Such a super special boy.
Miss Carlotti, that blister I was telling you about the other day, the one on my dad's toe, it exploded last night. Gunk all over our new carpet. My sister took pictures and put them on her phone.
Every day is another day for smiles and laughter.
My
Each child is a special child, every one of them truly matters. Everyone,
Man, you should have seen it.
every day,
There was gunk everywhere.
in their own special way. First student of the day, Nathan Reese.
Here, I have one for superstar Sophie. I have one for Nathan.
And this is sweet Miss Madison. She always has something to say.
All right, people, Mama's turning 9, and that means my favorite people turn into people who get me pregnant.
She's quite the little silver butterfly. She's got a new best friend every day.
There's a list of suggested gifts on there, and also a list of no-no items.
Her attitude is such that you'd better get out of her way.
Top of the list, no slime.
She's super great. Good morning, Madison.
Here.
Finally, everyone of them.
Excuse me, Miss Carlotti.
Everyone, every day, in their own special way.
I'm the primo ballerina dancing at Carnegie Hall.
And this is Carla she likes to dance.
Here, Miss Carlotti, make way. I just got this new tutu from the mail yesterday. My mom got it for me for cleaning the living room.
She spins and twirls at every chance. She's so creative. See her little prance. Yes, this is Carla.
What's on your pants? These are peace symbols. Are people being kind to one another? Peace means joy.
Miss Carlotti, Carla has words on her pants, and that is strictly against school policy.
I do not. Stop it.
Young Sophie, she does what's right. Her love of rules is pure delight.
Any clothing and no jewelry of any kind.
Yes, the Sophie fights the fight.
Here, Miss Carlotti, but Carla is breaking both rules because those little symbols on her leggings look like a silver necklace my sister has.
It's not a word and it's not jewelry. You're just being not polite.
Tracy likes to play with fun. Trainer likes to give big hugs. Robert sits in a special spot. And Ollie likes to everyone is here today. In their own special. Brian over there.
I need to go to the nurse, Miss
One
Carlotti.
moment, Nathan. Brian over there.
Miss Carlotti, it's 8:31. Principal Hofstadter said that class is supposed to start precisely at 8:30 a.m. That was exactly 74 seconds ago. 75, 76,
Thank you,
77.
Sophie. I'm aware. Brian over there. He's nice. Every day,
In their own special way.
Good morning, students.
Good morning, Miss Carlotti.
I've got rules, and your rules too.
We made the rules first day of school.
Rule 1,
Respect each other.
that's right. Rule 2,
Try your hardest.
try your hardest. Yes. Rule 3,
Encourage one another.
that's right. Encourage one another. I am inspired and encouraged by each and every one of you every day, including today, a new day.
Today is a day for learning, a day for happy ever after.
Oh, come in. Yes, and it's a day for meeting new friends. Boys and girls, I have a very special announcement to make this morning. I would like to introduce you all to Justin, who is joining our class.
A new kid.
Say good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Very nice to meet you all.
A new kid. Now, I know you all must understand what it must be like to be a new student. Sometimes it can be difficult when you don't know anyone and everyone else is familiar with the people and routines of a new school. So I hope you will all go out of your way to make sure Justin feels welcome here. Can you promise me to be extra special nice to Justin, especially today?
Yes, Miss Carlotti.
Kid, I wonder what's he gonna be like.
Take your seat, Justin.
I wonder if he'll be funnier than me.
I wonder if he'll be more popular than me. I wonder if he'll be allergic like me and sometimes have to leave the room because someone's parents didn't read the handouts and brought walnut-filled cupcakes and then takes a bite and Miss Carlotti has to get my his EpiPen and save his life right in the hallway, and then his mother has to call the principal, and then they ban cupcakes in the school, all because some forgetful parent didn't read the handouts. He almost died. I wonder if he'll be better dancer than me.
I wonder. I wonder. I wonder if he's scared. I'm sure you'll all go out of your way to make sure he feels welcome here.
Yes, Miss Carlotti.
I wonder.
It's that pretty time of day. The favorite time to play. He's here for fun and all. Oh, how he kicks the ball. Just with his super feet, he'll do a super feet. Now watch this boys and girls. They'll take the ball around the world. Whoa!
Hello? Hey, everyone, it's China! It just passed the Great Wall!
Wow!
Awesome! All right, let's get started. I picked first this time.
You picked first, but that means my team's up first. That's only fair.
Okay, let's start by picking Stan. Stan the man with the giant tan.
And his mom's name's Anne.
Really?
No idea. That sounds good, right? Okay, I choose next. Let's get Madison over here.
Oh, I was just about to pick her.
Birthday girl is super fun. That's why I choose Madison.
Nice. Next, she's my friend, she's my pally. So come join us, Allie.
Oh, yeah? Your team's got you, mine's got me, and now we've got my pal JT.
Bobby and Keith,
Tommy and Trina,
Richie, Ronnie,
Joe
Jen,
and Johnny.
Hey, don't say much, always trying.
Yeah?
And with Carla kicks, it always goes flying.
Ooh, fancy, man. Drop that ball and give it a kick. Last on my team, I choose Nick.
Wow. Okay, yeah, you got it. All right, teams are full, don't need anybody else.
Don't need anyone else, so let's play ball, people. Sorry, leftover kids.
Hey, I forgot, I'll be right back. Yep, still here.
Hey.
Hi.
Oh, sure.
Coach Noel gave us these mats to use as bases. They're really cool. Oh, thanks. One more. Oh, thanks. Yeah, teams are full, so maybe you can stop the foul balls that are heading toward the street.
Okay.
Hey, the new kid's gonna stop the foul balls from going into the street.
Cool. We can't run into the road. We have to wait and get Coach Noel.
We know! Stop telling us what to do!
This just in. Boys and girls, we're sad to say that the kick scene round the world will not be happening today. Because of the Super Friend's awesome power of invisibility, he was accidentally overlooked, and I repeat, the kick scene round the world will not be happening today.
Aww.
But do not fear, children of the world. The day will come when he gets his chance. I repeat, the day will come, and everyone will be very impressed.
Yay!
Food is meant to go into the opening right below your nose, not on the wall or the floor. Please help food get to where it wants to go today, children. Have a nice lunch.
the self-appointed most popular citizen of our grade, I have decided to grant the new kid a seat at my side today.
Thank you.
You are quite welcome. Don't get too comfortable, though. Tomorrow, we will reevaluate future assignments.
Madison only likes who she likes and make sure she lets you know if you're lucky enough to be one of them.
Oh, you're wearing your superstar badge, Sophie.
Of course I am, superstar.
I got mine too.
Oh, I got mine. Thank you, ma'am.
We all do.
What's a superstar badge?
Oh, new kid. You've got so much to learn.
Madison is giving out invitations to her birthday party this year, and people who've been invited all got star badges because it's gonna be a rock star party.
Cool.
It's gonna be the best party ever.
Whoa.
I'm not sure.
What?
I'm just saying it's gonna be kind of hard to beat last year.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
It's just an honor to be invited.
Not everyone goes.
Only the lucky ones.
Carla is still on the not so sure list after she spilled her punch all over the couch last year.
Birdie jumped on my arm. Not my fault.
Birdie's my schnozzing dog.
But it's okay, really.
At my old school, if you invited one person to a birthday party, you had to invite everyone.
Remember last year, your dad was so incredibly funny when he was like,
I got scared for a minute, but then it was really funny.
Madison has this giant TV. It must be 18 feet wide. It's bigger than my whole living room.
You know what I liked? I liked the candy.
I like the big chocolate cake.
And how her mom made us an ice cream buffet.
And how her brother was just like the night. Her mountain of presents was way outside. How we spoke to get and the treehouse her dad made was totally cool. The greatest party in the world. Madison, you are the luckiest girl. The greatest party in the world. Madison, you are the luckiest girl.
it's probably true.
Her backpack is flying.
We love it.
Her mom got a blender to make our own shit.
And we always smart. Keep the sheets and the chairs.
I love trying to stand down the living room.
That was unsanctioned, just for the record.
I love when that soda shot out of my nose.
When the cat jumped on Trina, she totally froze.
I was like,
The giant balloons that were big as a tree.
I love that her parents went not free for me.
The greatest party in the world. Madison, you are the luckiest girl. The greatest party in the world. Madison, you are the luckiest girl.
Little old me.
Your parents are neat, and so was the treat. I just gotta say, that party was sweet.
We jumped in the pool, we acted like fools, we party so hard, we threw out the rules.
So let us be clear that our only fears are not get invited to come back this year. Let us be clear that our only fears are not get invited to come back this year.
Let me make a decree. I shall see at my ninth, yes, ninth, some of thee in 2 weeks. The truly lucky ones. Maybe even you too, new kid, but probably not. So speaketh the birthday girl, and I am she.
The greatest party in the world. Madison, you are the luckiest girl. The greatest party in the world. Madison, you are the luckiest girl.
I'm gonna get a band.
Madison, you want to trade for a snickerdoodle?
Ooh, I'll give you half a slice of pizza.
Tempting, but no. Next.
As you will see, new student, the commodity of name brands hold a lot of weight here, but nothing beats chocolate.
I have a brownie. Ooh, but I want to keep it. My sister made them last night.
I have cheese doodles. Doodle for doodle.
Yes.
I've got classic PB&J without the PB.
Thank you for that.
Any takers?
One of my strawberry Pop-Tarts for half of your Aunt Jay.
And done.
Anyone want to trade?
Hey, look! Justin's eating with chopsticks.
My mom can eat with chopsticks too, kinda.
I can't.
It's really hard.
Where'd you learn?
My whole family uses chopsticks. They're from Korea. I don't know. I learned when I was really little.
Cool.
What are you eating?
Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecue beef. Anyone want to trade?
Bull buddy.
Bull boogery. Yeah, bulgo what?
Bulgogi. My grandma made it. Want to try?
Bull no for me. Ask me if I want to try eating someone's armpit.
That sounds really gross, Nikki.
Sounds like something you find between your toes. Sounds like something you sneeze out of your nose. A bulgogi. It's a big thing found under your feet. Roasted it up and now it's something to eat. Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi. Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi.
Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi. Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi.
It's not gross and tastes really good. I eat it all the time if I could. A bunch of spices that make it sweet. Some rice, some veggies, and some meat.
But the name sounds funny.
Well, what about chicken fingers or hot dogs? It's my favorite thing my grandma makes, and they sound weird, but I love the taste.
Drop right on down from outer space. It makes me feel look at my face. Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi.
Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi.
Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi.
Bulgogi, gogi, gogi, gogi.
My grandma.
We get it, Nathan. He's just kidding.
Ball, go, I'm gonna make a list of 3,000 million things I'd rather eat than bulgogi. Number 1, baby diapers. Number 2, more baby diapers. Number 3, dead people teeth.
Is that even a thing?
Yes, it's a thing.
Hey! Where'd New Kid go?
My Uncle Carl once went to a cemetery.
This just in. This just in. The Super Friend has just realized the true value of his invisibility ability. Not being seen is much better than being seen not nicely by others. Perhaps it is a more powerful power than anyone had ever realized. More on that later. I repeat, more on that later. For now, have an awesome day, citizens.
O'clock is choosing time, my favorite time of day. Other kids choose to read or play, but I sit with my pad and say, what should I draw today? I'll draw a dragon with a long green tail and big sharp nails. And on her back, I'll put 2 spiky things she'll use for wings to fly into the sky. I'll make her soar to the 100th floor. I'm a skyscraper. And out the window, the man will look up from his book to see a fire-breathing beast. And though he's scared, I'll draw him brave. He says, I will save us from becoming her beast. The sky gets dark from the dragon's shadow. The man sticks his head out of the window. I make the dragon wait and say, hello, we would you like a toasted marshmallow? Or a greedy pirate with a wood peg leg and a talking parrot. They search for treasure, explore the spot where they will stop, dig, and wait till deep they find the treasure chest. Irony matey, I finally won me quest. Captain, you're the best. But inside they find a bunch of crackers. Yay! Things aren't always what they seem to be. Dragons aren't always big and mean. Sometimes the treasures that we find are the things that make us feel good inside. And drawing is my favorite way to make everything okay. I'll draw a person from a far-off town. He meets everyone as they gather around. He's got a new food that no one knows. But the people laugh and say, "That's gross!" But it's not! It's amazing! Then comes the hero everyone loves. He flies real high, way above. He sees something he has to write. He has to be strong, he has to show some might. But he has a secret that no one knows. The hero gets scared like those below. But still he knows he has to face his fear. He has to say something. In my dreams, I wish that we could just draw nice people to us.
Hey, I was working on that.
Sorry.
Dear Justin,
I thought the bulgogi looked good. Yum. From Brian.
hey, are you Brian? Are you Brian?
Yes?
Thanks for the note.
Come on, Justin. We're gonna play Four Corners. They're gonna let us both play.
I gotta go. By the way, your drawing is amazing.
Thanks.
Come on, Justin. I'm proud, you kid.
See you around, Brian.
No battle won, no mission done, no quest to find the greatest prize. Taste this awesome feeling.
This just in, boys and girls. This just in. The hero has saved the day.
Hooray!
He was scared,
What?
but then he was also brave. And that is what it is to be a super friend.
No other way, kind of hooray.
But wait! Just as everything seemed safe, the alien queen from the mothership.
Fear not, children. I shall protect you.
You wish to save your
4 times 4.
4 times 4. Answer that, Super Brian. 4 times 4 for your friends.
For my friends, I shall answer your riddle, alien queen.
Brian, 4 times 4. Brian, 4 times 4, Brian?
Oh,
Let's look at the board again. If I have 4 rows of alien ships and there are 4 ships in each row, how many alien ships are there in the alien fleet? It's okay, Brian. We'll ask somebody else. Anyone?
It would be 20, but I destroyed some of them.
All right, Nathan, nice try. But next time, please raise your hand. And the answer is not 20.
That's 4 times 5.
Thank you, Sophie. But back to my first question. Okay, Brian, back with us. How
can I
many?
please go to the nurse?
Of course, what's the matter?
He needs to heal up after fighting the alien queen.
Madison. Brian?
I'm not feeling well.
Okay, go right ahead. Now for some more tough stuff. If a farmer has 10 cows each in 3 separate fields, how many cows does he have in total?
Brian! Brian? Almost time for dinner, my little Da Vinci.
Okay, I'm almost done.
What you working on here?
Nothing.
A lot of lines and colors for nothing. Sorry, you don't want me to see that one?
I'm still working on it.
Oh, brave hero! Thank you for saving me. Here, have a cookie.
You are welcome, young one.
It's not supposed to be funny.
Sweetheart, Mommy isn't laughing at you. She's laughing at how good it is. Oh, I'm proud of you, my little artist.
Thanks, Mom.
Mrs. Carlotti called you now. Hey, it's okay. I actually think it's kind of cool. You've got a great imagination.
Mom,
Yeah?
is there any way I could have a recharge day tomorrow?
Brian,
I promise this is the last time until next month. I promise.
But you-
2 months.
you just took a day off last week.
I know.
And we're just starting this new year. We talked about taking less this year.
I know.
Hey, come on. It couldn't have been all that bad. Okay, maybe it could have. You're fun. You know that? That's why your dad and I love to play with you. Don't let anyone ever take that away from you. You hear me? Seriously? No one's ever stood on a desk before and acted silly.
No.
Never.
No one's ever stood on a desk that I heard of.
Okay? That's fair. But I gotta think that something weird's been done before. I gotta think there's something else, there's something more. That all this fear about a desk and evil queen. There must be something nuttier that the kids have seen. Like when I was 8, this girl named Kate glued her face onto her hands. And when I was 10, this kid named Ben was playing tag and split his pants.
Really?
Really?
Nathan
did get his hand stuck in a toilet once, and they had to call the fire department to cut him out.
Okay, now that's something.
Oh, at one time, Madison got some food stuff stuck in her teeth all day long. Yeah, everyone was too scared to tell her about it. Sophie did eventually, but by then it was so late that Madison was so embarrassed. She realized it was there since breakfast.
And somehow she still goes to school every day, and no one reminds her.
So I guess it's okay.
See? Everyone has something happen to them. Even me. Even your father.
Dad?
Mm-hmm. In grade 4, when your dad was 9, and see, it happened all the time.
He'd what?
Never mind.
You can tell me.
When your father was only 9, he'd sit in class and he would cry.
He'd cry?
It happened all the time because the kids
Weren't very kind.
That's right. Your pop-pop got a new job, and the new school that Daddy went to wasn't the easiest on new kids. He had no one to talk to, no one to play with. None.
So what happened?
Instead of looking round and seeing none, he looked around one day and he saw one. A little girl came up and made a friend. And then his time alone came to an end.
He saw one.
Not none, but one.
Wow, that makes me really glad.
And that is how I met your dad. But don't worry, this story involves no holding hands or kissing. That didn't happen until he and I were in college.
Ew!
Yeah, ew. That's a story for when you're a little older, okay?
Blech.
Yeah, bleh.
And the other kids stopped picking on him?
Not really. But he also stopped worrying about it so much because we used to just do our own thing and not worry so much about everyone else. Instead of looking down and seeing none, he looked around one day and he saw one. He saw one, not none, but one. He saw one.
Mom?
Yeah.
I'm going tomorrow, okay?
Really? I mean, that's great.
It's going to be great. It will.
I'm glad. Well, why don't you go wash up and help me set the table? Your father will be home from work soon.
Woo! You mean your boyfriend?
Okay, let's go, wise guy.
Mom?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Every day is another day for smiles and laughter.
Thank you.
Miss Carlotti says to be quiet.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, I have a fun activity for all of us. Now, you remember when we were talking about what every story needs to have, right?
Oh, a moral. And this is why butterflies don't make good pets.
Now, a lot of stories do have morals, but not all of them. I'm looking for something that every story needs to have. Sophie?
A beginning part, middle part, and end part?
That's right. I want you all to write a story you're going to present to the rest of the class. It can be anything you'd like. It just needs to have a beginning,
Middle, and end.
That's right. And it needs to be about kindness. I've been thinking about a lot of the subjects here at school, and I realized it might be nice to spend some time talking about how we interact with each other and maybe what we do for others. Got it? And most importantly, have fun. And when you're done, you can present it however you like to everyone else. Any questions?
Is this a story that we make up or did someone else already make it?
You come up with everything. If you want a strawberry named Charlie to jump over a flying airplane, you can do that.
Can Charlie talk?
You can if you write it. Whatever you like. But no talking strawberries jumping high. That's my story. Write your own. And remember, this is about creativity and working together. Let's get started by getting together in groups of 2 or 3.
Oh, Sophie, you join me, okay? Justin and I are already in a group, so sorry.
Oh,
I was here first. That's fair.
hey, no, you go. Well, I was just. You go. I was just going to say that that's fair. It's okay, okay?
Yeah, but Miss Carlotti did say groups of 2 or 3 people. Why don't we just have Brian join us?
I guess so. Sure. Sure.
Okay, Brian?
Really?
Of course.
Okay, everyone, let's get started.
A magic watermelon.
I want to use explosions.
I have an idea. What about a bouncing elephant?
That's a great idea!
Every day is another day for smiles and laughter.
Brian, do you want to work on the pictures?
Yeah, you should see the picture he drew me. It's amazing. Brian?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. You're hired.
Okay.
Each day is a learning day, a day for happy ever after.
So, do you think you can make the mermaid really colorful?
Yeah, sure.
Each child is a special child, every one of them truly matters.
Man, that is going to be intense.
Everyone, every day, in their own special way.
Brian, is it okay if I work on the boat?
Sure, maybe you could put pirates in it too.
Hey, Brian there, yes, Brian there. He tends to hang out on the side, kind of quiet and big-hearted. He makes sure all the other kids are fine. But look at him as he draws. He's flying high in the sky.
The shark is doing what?
Don't let anyone see it yet. Way to go, way to try. Such a super special guy.
And now, whenever you see a fruit salad, you will think twice before you bite into any of the melons. They might just be a friend of yours. The end!
All right. Any observations we made that made their storytelling more effective?
I like the poem part with the oranges.
Oranges, oranges. Ooh. I like the singing. That was my idea. Thank you.
I made the wand.
And where did we see the kindness in our story?
When the tomatoes wanted to go to the salad skate rink, all the cucumbers let them in.
Nice, Nathan. Very good, Madison and Sophie. Good lessons for us all, right? Take your seats. Next up, we've got Carla and Justin and also Brian. Are you ready?
The story has everything. Just wait till you see.
But don't take our word for it. Just watch for yourself and you'll know what we mean.
Once there was a fish who lived in the sea, all alone, little parfish called Edie. He was so sad, so sad. He just eating, hey, along came a shark, scared him real bad, said I ain't gonna eat ya, and Edie was glad, so glad, so glad. They decided to swim and play, and Shark and Edie were friends that day. Shark and Eenie. Yay, yay, yay.
Up on the water, they heard a mermaid cry. They both felt bad, so the shark flew high. High in the sky. Fly, fly, fly. Touch a tree of the moss and sing a shark that can fly. They cheered up the mermaid so she wouldn't cry. They decided to dance and play. Oh, there were no three friends playing that day.
Shark and Eenie and Mermaid. Yay, yay, yay. Then a pirate ship with pirate people on board was shooting cannons at a dragon trying to steal his hoard.
Then the mermaid went and sang a beautiful song. And the dragon and pirates all got along.
Roar!
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
They decided to sing and play, so they were not loud of friends playing that day.
Shark and Mermaid and Shark and Eenie. Yay, yay, yay.
Finally, a spaceship with aliens came, and the friends were all scared that they would blow them away. But they didn't. Would anyone like to guess what they did except blow the planet up? Oh, they gave them cake. No. The mermaid fell down because she was clumsy.
Sophie.
I was just guessing, Carla.
Anybody else want to guess?
They gave them rides on the spaceship.
Wait, that was the right answer?
One was named Surf,
And one was named Deep.
and Sea,
And Silt. And Dabble-Dee-Dweeb.
they said,
She's from the land and creatures from the sea. Please come out, all of you, and listen to me. You don't have to run, fly, swim, or hide. We just want to take you all for a ride. They flew out to space real far away, and they all became friends playing that day. Turd and Zeep and Dabble-Dee-Dweeb and Zebo and Zilt and Zini and Pirate and Dragon and Mermaid and Shark and the carp whose name was Eenie. Yay, yay, yay. They flew out to space real far away, and they all became friends playing that day. Turd and Zeep and Dabble-Dee-Dweeb and Zebo and Zilt and Zini and Pirate and Dragon and Mermaid and Shark and the carp whose name was Eenie. Yay, yay, yay. The end.
All right, you three, that was nice. That was nice. Very nice. Any observations we made that made their storytelling more effective?
Hey, that was really funny. Yeah. And Brian, your pictures are amazing.
I think Carla's dancing was the best mermaid. It wouldn't have worked if Brian or Justin were the mermaid queen, but I think Carla's dancing was great and not clumsy.
Moments of kindness.
I like that they gave them rides. But I also like that they all had Z names.
People said it couldn't be done, but the hero and his team, it seemed like they won. They stood tall and proud, and it was really fun. But what happens now?
New rule in school. Students must use spoons and not their fingers to eat pudding. Soup can continue to be eaten with a straw, though. Thank you for following the rules.
Surf and Zeep and Dabble-Dee-Dweeb.
Hey, Brian. Brian, come on over. Sit by us.
It's okay.
Yeah, come on, sit by us. Hey, Brian, when you're drawing mermaids, you're not supposed to use a rainbow tail because mermaids are half So it should be either green or blue. Even though it makes it more exciting, it's unrealistic, my mom said. But besides that, your pictures were fantastic.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, my grandma made some cookies. Do you want one?
Sure.
Brian, do you want one of my grandma's cookies?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
My Jeebus, these are so good.
Yeah, wow. Justin, your grandmom's really good at making food.
Thanks.
Okay, new rule, new kid. Cookies for everyone or cookies for no one.
And don't go nuts, if you know what I mean.
What?
Like, nut free.
Oh, okay.
We just came over here because we wanted to tell you how awesome your show was.
Yeah.
Now your grandma's cookies, those I'd eat.
Hey, stop it, Nathan.
It's okay.
What? It's just,
What?
well,
It's just that you may not have known that you were making Justin feel bad, but when you were making fun of his food, it really felt like you were making fun of him.
Oh.
sorry, new kid.
Justin.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
We were just trying to be funny, you
Yeah.
know?
I know.
Bulgogi is a pretty funny word.
Bulgogi. Bulgogi. Bulgogi.
See? It sounds funny.
I guess.
But I still should not make fun. Just in case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to come to my party too? I was remembering about what you said about inviting everyone, and maybe you could come too, all of you. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Well, alrighty then.
Hey, remember when I said my dad's brother painted his whole head?
I know. I told you that'd make him get sick. And then I asked my mom.
Well, I saw pictures. He's coming over tonight.
No.
Did I show you what I brought for show and tell tomorrow?
Cool. Oh, that's really neat. I used to think that life would come to me, that waiting's all it takes to come to be. But if I close my eyes and hope for change, then it only happens in my brain. So I would wait for this and that, and just myself was all I had. Would look around at where I am. For once today was not so bad, and maybe this could be my everyday. Because I grew a plane, and I grew 1,000 ways, and it flew and flew and flew.
Look at the sun.
And now I'm looking down at everything. The world is brighter now forevermore.
Look how we fly.
Gone are the days of only gray. There's 1,000 colors and 1,000 more. And be the different things that all of us can be.
Every day is another day.
And even if today was just this one moment, and even if the rest of them still can't see, just that moment would be enough for me.
This just in, boys and girls, this just in. The hero, it turns out, is just a kid. Just a regular kid.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah?
Everyone's going outside for kickball.
They were asking for you too, so you want to join in?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm now going to bring into the studio the artistic team that brought this to you. This is Mr. Chris Parks, who is the playwright of today's show.
Hey, everybody.
We can't hear you, Chris.
Oh,
there we go. Adrian Thornburg.
Hi.
Isabel. Claire.
Hey there.
Miss Kayla. It's so great to see you guys.
I'm not the only one who sees that Isabella's upside down, right?
Yes, you are.
That is you. She's right side up to me.
She's right side up to me, too.
What? Is it just me? Oh my goodness, it's just me. Incredible. Incredible.
All right. So now, if there are any questions. Go ahead, Chris.
I said, thanks, Kathy. Kathy said this was awesome.
All sorts of cool stuff. Kathy Jacobson, what's the best part of being part of the Kindness Project? That's a great question.
I'll jump in. I was one of the early folks that Adam asked to be a part of the Kindness Project. I directed the first play in the Kindness Project, Last Stop on Market Street. And then Adam asked me if I'd be interested in writing the book for this. And after giving me the actual picture book. And, you know, Adam and I, and a lot of us who work in children's theater, when we are creating the work that we're creating, we're thinking so much about our audience and what sort of messages that we're sending. Without it being filled with messages, we still know that we have a responsibility because kids are going to watch these shows and they're going to take something away from it. And so how beautiful is it that Adam and Linda and Peter and Dorlissa have defined this thing, this Kindness Project, whereby we know what our mission is. We know that we're creating a show that promotes kindness and celebrates kindness and gives us different perspectives on that. So it's great as artists because I think it really defines where we're going. So so honored to be a part of it.
And kindness is never unnecessary.
That's beautiful, Adam.
We know that today. We know that now. What about the rest of you guys? I gotta say, first of all, I directed the play, and I was so honored to be able to work on this. We also had a huge advocate in the book author and the book illustrator. They've been with us from the very beginning and have been huge supporters of the Kindness Project in their own work as well. But this group of artists could not be a kinder and better group to work on something like this with. I will just say that, first of all.
That's beautiful. Adrian, you should talk a little bit about you and the experiences you've had in life and like how you felt like you connected with Brian.
Sure, absolutely. I often felt like I grew up a Brian, and I think hopefully a lot of people watching the show feel the same way. The sense of feeling sort of out of it, not really knowing where you fit in the sort of social hierarchy. And I think one of the most, maybe the most valuable sort of lesson I learned from the show is the active nature of kindness. And, you know, it's easy to sort of think of kindness as sort of this nebulous, sort of like the way you'd think of being nice or good. But the one thing that was really hammered home by working on this show was how kindness is a thing that you do. It's a choice that you make and an action that you take over and over again. And that really spoke to me. And it's sort of the main thing that I think about when I think about applying what I learned from The Invisible Boy to my everyday life.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I will say the Kindness Project specifically was such a cool teaching tool to use when we would get to talk to students. Sometimes we do shows where it is telling a story, and students walk away inspired by the artistry that they've seen. But this one was so much more of a call to action. And we could see that in some of our Q&As where we would, just like Adrian was talking about, say to the group of students, who has felt like this? And, think about that the next time you're out in the world. How can you be inclusive, or how can you throw the airplane? Right. And so to have that platform was so cool.
Here's a question. Was it fun playing a character that was younger than you?
Yes. It was. Can you guys hear me fine? Okay. It's cool to be able to try to be a kid again while not pretending to be a kid. Like I'm acting as myself as a kid, even though I'm this other character. Like it was just a lot of fun, especially with my big tutu. I got to have a lot of fun with that.
Hey, Adam, just a note for everybody out there. So Adam and I sometimes get into arguments when we're creating shows in the best ways. What? In the best ways, because we're trying to
Never.
And sometimes I'll stop us in the middle of an argument. I'll say, I just want to point out that we're two men in our 40s fighting over what an 8-year-old girl is going to think. And Adam, I feel like you probably experience this all the time as the artistic director of this children's theater, not just with me, but with everybody and with everything that you create. Can you talk about how do you actually navigate getting into the mind of these young audience members that you have?
Wow, that is a huge and great question, and one that, interestingly, in institutional theater, we go through strategic planning all the time. And, one of the things that we want to challenge ourselves with is to become better at listening to children, understanding the world from the perspective of a child. And it's really dangerous for us to quite simply say, oh, I don't think a child would say that. Or I don't think a child would do that. Or I don't think, it's just like with acting. I don't think my character would say that. How do you know that? So it is really hard to do, but we're surrounded in the classes that we offer here, in the shows that we perform here, we're surrounded by children. I have 2 children. But I don't know. We talk to great people like you guys. We talk to children. We actually bring focus groups in. We have a teen advisory council that we connect with and talk to on a regular basis. We're always searching for the way in which we can better understand what it's really like to be a child today, which is nothing like what it was like to be a child when I was young, or when any of us were really young. And that's the first thing that I have to understand, that I really don't understand anymore what it's like.
Cool.
Here's a question. Who is your favorite character and why?
Isabel, come on. What do you got to say?
I know. I'm trying to. I have so many favorite characters because I identify with like everyone in this play in at least a little bit. But the first one that came to mind was actually Trina, because I feel like Trina was the character who you always like had to love. She came in at the randomest times, but you always wanted to know more. You always wanted more of her. And I feel like because of that, Trina was my favorite character.
I love the sock puppet. If anybody actually caught the sock puppet.
Obviously I love Brian. I am Brian. Brian is me. Brian will always be in my heart. I have a lot of respect for the character of Nathan, as played by Ashton Guthrie. I think Nathan exemplifies a really important part, like like a crucial part of what I feel like the show is trying to say, of how there aren't like good and bad guys for the most part. No one is malevolent in this show. No, children are very rarely malevolent, and he's just trying to be a part of the social hierarchy the way that all kids are. He's just trying to be a part of the group. And he hurt people. And once he's made to see that, he can work on redemption. And also he's just fun. You know, he's fun and funny. And those are positive traits. And it's sometimes you have to, you know, figure out how to still be who you are and not hurt others.
It's interesting that you bring up that Nathan's not malevolent. That was such a brilliant way to play that role. But it was also very important to both Trudy, who wrote the book, and Chris, who wrote the play, from the very beginning, that none of these characters are evil or villains or inherently bad. It's an interesting thing to think. Chris, you want to talk about why that was important to you?
I think that's, you know, look, great theater has to have conflict. And I was so excited that we didn't have to have that bully character or any bully characters that were mean so much as, you know, the world is a lot about what our own personal perception of it is. And it's so truthful that it's very rare that someone is a truly, as Adrian put it, malevolent figure. And I really thought that that Trudy did a great job of, you know, displaying that in the book. And that was, I think, one of the earliest conversations you and I had, Adam. We were like, I said it to you and you were like, I know. And it was just like, it felt like a really great thing to accentuate and focus on, because I think that if you just spend your life worrying about the truly wicked people in the world, you forget that you yourself could sometimes do things that are not necessarily the nicest things, even though you don't intend to do something that is wicked to someone else or belittle someone else. And so it gives everyone a way to look in at things, even if they're a Nathan in the world, or even if they're a Madison in the world. It gives them a way of looking in at things and say, oh, that is kind of me. And you know what? I actually have done these things before. I wonder what I could do to be with that kid who's alone in the lunchroom, or who is feeling a little marginalized and not being included in things, as opposed to saying, I'm not the evil person. It's like, yeah, you're probably not, but maybe you're someone who maybe could think a little bit about your actions a little bit, like we all could all the time.
I want to take this question over to some of the actors. I feel this sheds light on the fact that everyone provides value and the importance of respecting neurodiversity. What additional big takeaways did you all have?
I know one takeaway I took away that I kind of already knew, but it was reinforced, is just how tremendously difficult it is to teach young children. Because your job is both like information and making that information make sense and have it being retained, but also like extra parent and guardian, and like watchful eye over so many different types of young, vulnerable, developing people. You know, I found Mrs. Carlotti's job just so impossible and so important.
Yeah, which I think parents are really finding now. You know, everybody, you know, wake up and everybody's homeschooling, right? Or learning from home.
Mm-hmm.
What are the big takeaways did you guys have? Kayla, Claire, Isabel?
One of the ones that, and I know that we talked about this a lot in the room, is the strength that can be found in those that are quieter, right? And how much power there is to be found in those friends. And I remember we talked a lot specifically about making sure that Brian's portrayal, which Adrian does so beautifully, of someone who is quiet, is not that there's strength in it, as well as it's not to be frowned upon, because he is a listener and he is a contributor in his own unique way through his drawings. I also remember us talking about specifically with the mom scene, the importance of the recharge day, and how again, just celebrating those parts of us that are unique, and the fact that some of us, like the Madisons of the world, can dance on a table and have the best day ever, but some of us can sit alone and draw a beautiful masterpiece, and that is our happy place, and all of those things are important. So yeah, the strength and the quiet.
We got another question here. My daughter Findley wants to know if you have acted in other places other than Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, a little.
Kayla?
Not really for me.
For most of us, I know, like Isabel, because you were in school and stuff, so that's different. But like for most of us, we've had an opportunity to be able to perform at different theaters outside of the city or outside of even the state. So it's been really cool to be able to share our stories and share our talents with others in other places.
And we are very lucky that they make it to Charlotte to share these talents in Charlotte. Claire, Adrian, where else have you guys worked?
I just finished up this past spring working at Lexington Children's Theater, and have
Lexington Children's Theater.
We do, and have hopped around to various theaters kind of on this coast. But Children's Theater Charlotte is definitely the home base for me. So thankful that they allow me to come play when they do.
And I did a lot of acting in school in Greensboro, and I spent a summer in Sevierville, Tennessee, working at Dollywood once, wearing a giant bear costume, which was a great time. It was actually 2 different giant bear costumes for 2 different shows that both required a giant bear, and I obliged. It was fantastic. And a bunny, so 2 bears and a bunny.
Dollywood, when I was just out of undergrad, I worked at Old Tucson Studios, and I played the villain. It was the best job.
Yeah.
What is the hardest part about bringing a book to the stage? That's a good one for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
I always just saw it as an advantage. I don't think I ever found a time where I was like, if only it wasn't a book. Like, I just always saw it as this wonderful resource, so maybe I'm unanswering the question.
It was a little not hard for me, but just because my character didn't exist in the book. There was the character Emilio, and it was just a different kind of track for him, whereas Carla didn't exist. So I didn't get that source material like Brian did. But I mean, Chris and Josh wrote a pretty solid character, so it wasn't terribly hard. But I didn't have the aspect of the book to go on.
I have to check my main character privilege.
I also think when you're working with source material that is that well known, I know, speaking for me, there is definitely a desire to honor it. And we were spoiled with Chris and composer Josh creating such a beautiful retelling of this, as well as you were talking about earlier, Adam, Trudy, the author of The Invisible Boy, was so gracious. But I mean, that would be the biggest thing for me is I would always hold my breath when we do those Q&As because there would always be usually one kid that would raise the hand, and rather than it being a question, it was a statement about how we stacked up next to their favorite children's book, right? And thankfully, it was mostly very positive or very insightful comments. But yeah, that desire to do a great story justice.
Yeah, I have friends who have adapted books like Are You My Mother and Goodnight Moon, and every time I've seen them, I've been like, I don't know how you did that. I could never do that because there's almost nothing there, and you've turned it like the Goodnight Moon production a friend of mine did. I mean, it's an extravaganza. I'm like, I would have never thought to do that. So when I first read this, I was nervous, but this book in particular is like the perfect structure for a play. And even though there aren't that many words in the book, although there's a lot more words than Goodnight Moon, they say a picture tells, says 1,000 words. Patrice's pictures are so filled with content. And they tell us so much, particularly about the characters' demeanors, and how they feel about things and what they're feeling in certain moments, that it became actually not quite as difficult as I thought it could have been. And then the first draft we did of the play, Adam and Michelle Long read, and they were like, "It's good, but it's just good. Like it doesn't go far enough or deep enough." And what I realized was I was a little too faithful to the book in the first draft, and I needed to allow myself to just sort of add some things and change and move things around. Like when Justin enters the play is different than when Justin enters the book, which is about halfway through the book. Now he enters in the first, second scene. So I think that working someplace with people like Adam, like Michelle, like Josh, having the freedom that Patrice and Trudy gave us to just sort of move things, sway things around, it was a great experience. I don't know that all book adaptations could possibly be as satisfying as this one was, but I feel like we just had such a great process. But it's definitely hard. I think it's definitely hard and harder in different situations than others. So I think we were blessed with this book.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head for me with when it's a picture book, your imagination fills in what's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And when it moves to the stage, it's the writer and the composer that has to fill in that somewhat. And it's scary, and it's particularly scary with a wonderful book author like Trudy Ludwig, who just says, "I trust you. I'm just going to show up to opening day and trust that you will make it brilliant."
Terrifying.
That's terrifying, because you're constantly thinking, I want to do you proud. I want to take this wonderful source material and make sure that the songs that come to life that are really not a part of the story, that we are interpreting, in a way that serves the intent of the story. That to me is the hardest part about helping to shepherd something like this to the stage. I also want to say that a little while ago, Kayla said that, about your character. I will say that of all the characters in the story, the one that had the greatest journey in development from the beginning to the end was yours, I think. Mm-hmm. And a big part of that was the way in which you, during the workshops, were approaching that character, made the writers completely rethink who she was. Mm-hmm. Which is why we do workshopping.
Yeah, we even had arguments about whether she's too fleshed out. Is she too deep a character compared to some of the other characters? And luckily, we all were like, no, like everybody can have that journey. So yeah, that's a great point, Adam.
Oh, geez, Mara.
Yeah.
Finley also wants to know how long it took to learn your lines and set everything up.
So that's interesting for a new work, right? Because usually you get a script at the beginning of a process, and as a professional actor, you know what parts you're playing, and you get it several weeks before the rehearsal process, and you should come into the rehearsal room ready to go, like pretty much off book. But in this case, we were changing things because it's the first time the show has ever been done. So we would come in on a Monday, and then by Wednesday, we'd have several brand new scenes that we got to work on and learn. And so it was a constant learning
Nightmare.
process. No. No. And both Adam and Chris were very patient and generous, because there were definitely great days, and then there were days of deer in the headlights of, oh no, I'm definitely doing the scene that was 2 drafts ago on stage. But that's part of what makes the process of a new work so fun, is that it's constantly an education.
Yeah, there was even a time after we had our first performance in front of children that we realized one of the lines didn't work, or one of the scenes didn't work, and then we got, different lines to do for that scene. So like, it's just a really cool process where it's always changing, and it makes it an experience that not a lot of people get to do. You don't get to help the creators form these scenes. And then, our set was incredible, and they worked really hard on that. By the time we got ready to get into this, onto the set, they were everything was almost completely fleshed out. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm. I sometimes, as an actor, struggle to think of myself as a creative, because while it's something I work very hard on, it is also still something that has come more naturally to me, as opposed to, say, writing or directing or certainly composing or anything like that. But with a new work, getting to help facilitate where the show goes, there's no mistaking it. Everyone in the room is contributing, and you can see it happen, and you feel it happen, and it's very affirming.
So Isabel experienced something on Grimm's, which was grim, in that the Monday before we opened, Grimm's is a series of 4 different stories, 4 different Grimm's fairy tales, and we rewrote one almost entirely and gave them the scripts that morning. And then Rashim Shabazz and I restaged it in one day. That was crazy. Isabel, talk about, is it okay if we hijack Invisible Boy and Isabel talks about what that was like to redo something a week before? I guess so. Adam didn't say anything.
Sorry, I got a great text about this right here as you were saying that. What did you ask me?
Is it okay for Isabel to talk about it?
Yeah, well, so Grimm's was another story that we play that Chris wrote, and in fact, it is still on our stage right now, because it is the show we were producing when we closed because of the pandemic. So yeah, go ahead, Isabel, if it's.
Mm-hmm. And you want me to talk about that whole entire process of the horn?
Sure.
Okay. So
Nobody got to see the play.
it was Cinderella that we changed. And I think because of how new everything was for Invisible Boy, I kind of got a glimpse of how a new work was gonna work, and like putting everything together in such a short amount of time. I was new to everything, but Grimm's was a totally different experience in the case of we did get a scene, I think, a day before we opened to the public, and we were in Tech Week, and it was supposed to be like our final dress, and we kind of just ran everything. But it was kind of the best of both worlds, because I think the changes that we made to Cinderella were so needed, and so it made the story just come together as a whole. And everyone, there was only 5 of us in the cast, but we were all like, we got this, we're gonna do it, we're gonna have the best time. And we did. It was stressful, I'm not gonna lie, but it was a learning experience, and it was phenomenal.
I will say it's really interesting that this whole conversation stemmed from Findlay's question, how long it took to learn your lines.
Which we did not answer.
With a new play, one that's never been produced before, what we learned here is that it's different to learn your lines for that than an existing play. And it's even worse or harder at Children's Theater of Charlotte when you're working with Adam and Chris, because I personally believe that there's never a stopping point. We are in service to the story and making the story as wonderful and engaging as it can be. And to do that, we have to surround ourselves with the best actors, with the most creative, flexible actors who are game to do that. Because it gets really stressful right up at the end when you think you've learned your lines and you get that new scene 30 minutes before you're going to go on, right? Or something. Great question, Findlay. Here's a great sort of last question, two-part question. What's one piece or takeaway advice, personally, not your character, that you would give to a child? And would that advice be any different from advice you would give to an adult today?
I know personally, we touched on it a little bit or earlier, but about throwing the plane and like that metaphor, and just like, I would give the same advice to a child and the adult, and kind of just like go for it. Kind of just like, you never know whose life is going to change. You can speak up and you can change this child forever, but you can also change an adult. And so I think just not being afraid to throw the plane, not being afraid to speak up, not being afraid to put your whole heart out there, because you can be changing a child or an adult.
I'm going to kind of tag on to that. How do I explain this? Being able to understand that you don't come from the same background as someone else, and still being able to empathize with them, and still being able to support them or give them any kind of, just understanding is very important. Especially, with everything that's been going on today, or that has been going on, having sympathy and empathy for others, regardless of if you share the same background or share the same experiences as them. And that's a big takeaway, with Brian, what he did for Justin, or even with Carla, all of those kids, they were able to understand that someone's going through something, even though they weren't as well. So he was able to have empathy for Justin. And that's something I would give advice to for a kid as well as an adult.
I guess I would say to both a child and an adult, and it's something I have to tell myself constantly, is if you ever find yourself thinking that you are not talented, that you don't have something to contribute, that the things that you're good at aren't things that matter, you need to think about where it is you're getting that from and why you might think that, because the entire point of being a community is that we are all good at different things and we can all contribute in different ways. And I promise that you can contribute just by being who you are.
Adrian, that was basically exactly what I was going to say. So way to read my mind. But the only other thing I was going to say is this was actually a conversation that I was having with a younger person in my life. And I thought to myself, man, if I could go back in time and say this to little me, I would really appreciate it, which was I was having a conversation with a student. And I said, when you go into a college interview, no one is going to ask you which table you sat at in the lunchroom. And so it's just fearlessly finding the people that you can connect with that are kind, and offering seats up at your table rather than spending so much time worrying about it, right? And worrying about whether or not you're cool or whether or not you're going to get that invite to the birthday party. Yeah.
Yeah, it's two sides of the coin that you were mentioning, Adrian. Part of it is how do you feel about yourself, but then for those people who are in the position of power or the position to do something, how do you give yourself the opportunity to get into that person's mind, or maybe try and read or interpret that person to try and include that person. You know, how do you take that person who's marginalized or people pick on or people don't think is cool enough and say to yourself, you know what, I don't care, I'm gonna take a risk, I'm gonna put myself out there, and if I get alienated from everyone else for including this person, well then that's everybody else's problem. But boy, everybody needs a chance. If we could all give each other chances and get everybody included in things, it would be such a better place, such a nicer place. All that empathy that Kayla's talking about.
I think everything these guys have said, that is all the reason that we started the Kindness Project. And I think the original question was, what advice would you give a child? And is that different than what you'd give to an adult? And I think for a child, I would agree with Kayla 100%. Throw the plane. Do that thing that will be kind for another person in order for them to feel better, in order for them to understand, listen to understand. But for an adult, you know, we started this almost 4 years ago. Exactly. And it was during the last presidential election. And what we found is that the way in which we as adults were talking to each other, corresponding with each other, was just not nice. It was pretty horrible, actually. And so we asked ourselves, what is our responsibility as a service provider for children in the world in which we exist? How do we, and so the Kindness Project was born. So I guess my advice to us, to me, and we as adults is to be good role models. Just be good role models. Well, that's a great place to stop, I think. Thank you, Mara. Throw the plane. Yes, throw the plane. Thank you, guys. Thanks to everyone who has been watching. We're so happy we could share this with you. Thanks to the actors and to Chris, the playwright, for being here with us. Boy, Isabel keeps popping out. And just thank you. It's great to sort of reconnect again. And we hope to do this again.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Mara. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.